Okay, teammates, we are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the #1 show on innovative teamwork. Great to have you. Looking forward to having you back for more. To my regular listeners, you already know what goes down when you hit the play button on this show. You get nothing but the best top quality advice. We are here, whether it's just myself talking to you individually or I have a guest on. We are here to speak to you and let you know you are not alone when you're going through your struggles, whatever you may be going through, whatever difficult, challenging times that you may have as you're building your organization. You are not going through that alone. Today, I have Mr. Max Emma, founder of it's bookkeeping. It's bookkeeping, right? BooXkeeping.
It's
Excuse me.
BooXkeeping.
Yeah, BooXkeeping. And well, before I dive too deep into his story, let me bring him on and introduce him, and give you a chance to introduce yourself a little bit.
Hi, Aswan. Thank you for having me. So my name is Max Sama, and I'm founder and CEO of BooXkeeping. So BooXkeeping is the bookkeeping company that provides bookkeeping services in all 50 states, mainly to other franchise brands. And a few years ago, we've started franchising our own concept, and now we're selling bookkeeping franchises throughout the United States.
Yes, and I'm glad you broke that down and kind of put it out there initially about what it is you do, because what I want to be clear about, especially for the listeners, is this did not happen overnight. I was actually listening to you on Greg Moore's show, and he's actually another individual who's been on this show as well, and we are talking about the importance of franchising and how to go about finding the right franchise, all those sorts of things. And one of the things that really struck me about your story is you had actually inherited a landscaping company from your parents at one point, and there was a point where you went bankrupt and things were rough on you. So why don't you go a little deeper into your background, where you started, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Sure. I mean, to make the long story short, I came to the
Well, there's
United
no well,
States.
I'll pause you because there's no time limits here. So if you feel like you got to go deeper into this, well, go ahead and do your thing, man.
Well, I mean, we're talking about 32 years of being in this country, but I promise
Where'd you come from?
it's not gonna take that long. I'm originally from the former Soviet Union, came here 32 years ago,
Hmm.
and started my journey from literally uh, learning English, finding my own ways to learn English, find out of box ways to learn English, and then getting my job, and then getting a better job. Then I got finance education, work in corporate America for 4 years, and then I realized that the corporate life is not for me. So July 4th, 2002 was my real freedom day, because that was the first day of my freedom when I stopped working for somebody. So I quit July 3rd, 2002,
Hmm.
and gave a 2 week notice and joined family business. I did not inherit it. I joined it,
Oh,
and it
oh,
was a
that's what
small, it
happened.
was,
Okay, I got you.
yes, it was a small business with 3 employees, just one
Well,
main.
before you keep going though, because that's actually a decision that I don't want to brush over, because as listeners, there's a lot of people that are in that corporate environment that may love that check. And when it comes to the decision to leave and then go build or do something with your family where it's not necessarily as guaranteed. Can you talk a little bit about what went into it and how difficult it actually was, and what ultimately made it so you decided to go ahead and make the switch and put your 2 weeks in?
Sure. I was just getting depressed. I was getting depressed, meaning it wasn't like a clinical depression, not to the extent that I had to go and start taking medication. I just wasn't happy. I was coming home and just, I hate that. I just don't like it. So my joke is that, I was always kissing the wrong butt to get promoted in the corporate world. I mean, I was always, doing it wrong. And I'm like, maybe that's not for me.
Right.
And so my dad had a small landscape route with 3 employees, but he came from the former Soviet Union at the age of 55 with zero English, and obviously at 55 was way harder than to learn it at 18.
Hmm.
So he got where he could, and that was his limit. I'm like, hey, Dad, why don't I come and see if I can take it from there? And I think we can take it to the next level. And yes, I did take a risk. I just didn't like what I had at this point. People looked at me as I was crazy, because
Hmm.
at this time I was working for Qualcomm, and Qualcomm, they were splitting stocks about once every 2 months. So the stock
Hmm.
was going bananas. We had stock options. They were gonna pay for my MBA, and I was gonna be manager. So they had like a way for me,
A
and
lot of
I'm like, no,
security.
that
It's a
this is
lot of security there.
yes.
Yeah.
For sure. And it just, I just said, no, I'm not gonna do it. That's not for me. So my decision, it just, that's not the path I'm gonna take. And I decided to go this route. And again, it's been over 22 years. I've been an entrepreneur, and I love every moment of it. It has its risks, as you
Right.
know, a lot of risk. I mean, last time somebody gave me paycheck was over 22 years ago.
Right. So when you're initially making this transition though, what were those initial days like for you? Because I know it can be a huge adjustment to maybe you're going to a place every day and you're working, putting in your 8 hours or 80 hours a week or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden it's like you're in this entrepreneurship world and it's like, look, I got to go out and get these contracts, especially when it comes to landscaping. It's a matter of making sure that you're landing bigger deals and you're not underpricing yourself and making sure you're doing all those sorts of things. So what were the early transition days like?
Well, the early transition was that nobody's paying me because the business could not sustain me joining it at this moment. I mean,
Oh,
ultimately it grew, and it was growing. It just, spoiler alert, it went from 3 employees to 96 employees.
right.
But in the beginning there wasn't enough for me to start taking salary. So my
Wow.
girlfriend at the time, who later became my wife, who also became a co-founder of BooXkeeping, she was a teaching assistant at college. So we were leaving, and her salary, which was not really big because she was going to school and working as TA. I mean, it wasn't happening for years. We were not starving. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you the story, that it was horrible, but it was definitely, you know, pretty tough after you worked for a large company and was getting paid good amount of money.
Mhm.
So that was adjustment number one. Adjustment number two, I had to learn from scratch because I didn't know anything about landscaping at the time. I had to learn. I passed the state license, contractor's license. I studied. I mean, I was taking notes, I was asking questions. So I don't know, first 6 to 12 months, it was a big learning curve. It's like going back to school, but nobody was grading me. The life was grading me, I guess.
Hmm. Well, first of all, we got to shout out to Wifey, man. Shout out to you for holding it down when things are tough, and that is also a very important element to business and teamwork, and a lot of the things that we actually discuss on this show is finding the supportive people that when you're going through rough times, when you're going through certain things, they're able to kind of hold you down as you're building and doing those sort of things. So gotta give Wifey shout out for sure, man. So.
Well, I mean, we can get to it, but
Mhm.
the interesting fact that it's an XY, but we're still working in the business together, and we still, it's still actually no. We're working. She is a co-founder of BooXkeeping, and she's the chief
Yeah,
people's officer. Her name is Elena Emma, and she's doing a lot for the business. She is training all the franchisees and all the employees because she has a PhD,
yeah.
and she's actually, you know. Uh, making sure that everybody on the team is on top of their performance. So actually, all the story that people get divorced and get half of their business taken away and all this stuff, it happens, I'm sure. But luckily for us, it was a different path.
No, I'm laughing because I actually have had people on this show that really do talk a lot about relationships. And I always talk about my grandmother on my mother's side, her funeral. The first person that spoke at her funeral was her ex-husband. And I
Oh
always
wow.
speak on the fact that, hey, look, sometimes even though the relationship may not work out, there's still levels of maturity, there's still levels of being professional that you still have to maintain. And it's not going to help anybody by being resentful and bringing whatever happened to work and getting it in the way of everyone. So again, kudos to you and her for at least being professional with whatever it is that went down. So shout out to both.
I'll tell her that I'll be speaking at her funeral, and I'll tell her it was your idea. I don't know how she's gonna take it, but I'll try, man, for sure.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean for that to be any kind of morbid or putting
I
anything
know,
out there.
I
But
I
yes,
know.
I hear
I'm
you.
just, I know, I'm
I hear
joking.
you, man. Oh man. But that's again, I didn't even know that. But one of the things that kind of struck me when I was doing my research on the show was that you actually, I believe you filed for bankruptcy at one point, or there was a point where you had nothing and you had to build it back up. So, speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we grew the business from 3 to 96 employees, and it was going well until it wasn't. And both of us, I had a degree in finance, she had a degree in accounting, but we were growing so fast that we overlooked our own financials, and we're like, yeah, everything is going to be fine. And it would be if the economy would not collapse. But I'm not blaming the economy, I'm blaming us not seeing it early enough. We just were overcapitalized. We had a lot of trucks, like I think when we closed the company, we had over 20 trucks, almost all brand new equipment, cranes, all the stuff, and up to 96 employees. And we were doing small, not small, we were doing track homes, like landscaping for track homes, new homes. And San Diego was building like crazy, but then it stopped
Mm-hmm.
2008, 2009. And we had all this beautiful equipment and no jobs coming in. So that was it, and we didn't have a choice but declare bankruptcy. I remember the last thing we did is we sold our house, paid every employee, and I literally hanged the key on the bar, and I just like, oops, I'm done.
Hmm.
Do whatever, and walked away. And that was, I remember this moment pretty well, and that was, very hard to say the least, because we had a baby and one baby on the way when that happened, and we weren't sure what's gonna happen. So that was interesting to say the least.
Now looking back on it though, I'm kind of curious because your business is it's big on contracts. You know, when you say hire employees, were these people that were contractor, like independent contractors, or was it a situation where you paid them a certain salary every like how was that structure? Because I mean the reason I'm asking that is because when you got into business for yourself, it was other franchises and franchisees that you were working with that convinced you to actually take your company franchise. So what would you say were kind of the big lessons that you took when you finally hung that up and decided to go into the other route?
You're talking about the bookkeeping. Well, bookkeeping has not started as the franchise. They weren't even thought about
Right, that's what I'm saying.
franchise.
Like before you
W-
got there, were there any things that when you decided to hang up the landscaping business, were there anything
mm,
lessons that you would have taken from that experience in terms of how you hired people and then that you applied to the bookkeeping?
Well, it's not hiring people is just we understood back then that
Mm-hmm.
team is a huge thing and you cannot do it yourself. And I mean, all the kudos is actually to Elena because the culture for bookkeeping, it's her baby. We have like the whole 2 3 hour educational culture. We have
Mm-hmm.
cultural meetings. Our hashtag is cool bean counters.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually done with the purpose because let's be honest, bookkeeping is a very boring industry, so boring profession. We don't want it to be like that. We want
Mm-hmm.
it to be fun. We want to people like it and enjoy what they're doing. But before we started bookkeeping, we actually started the landscaping again. We're more successful,
Oh,
sold it, and
oh,
then we actually we proved ourselves that we can do it.
I
And
got
then
you.
we open bookkeeping. I would say by accident because we were trying to get financials done for our landscaping company,
Uh,
and we got
uh,
about 20 proposals from
I got
local
you.
bookkeepers. And the proposal was anywhere from $200 to $2,000 for exactly the same scope of work. And
Uh-huh.
my finance education told me that, and Elena confirmed it, that it can be a gap like that. So we're like, well, maybe there is a need for uniform service. So we wrote a business plan and we started bookkeeping literally from the garage. She was doing the work, I was selling the work while still running the landscaping company until we
Oh
sold it.
man, yeah, I didn't know. So you restarted it and you made it a success, and that's where kind of the light bulb went off, and you guys were like, okay, there's something wrong with how certain things are being done. So I guess speak on that a little bit then, because you just mentioned bookkeeping. You're right, I hear it, and it sounds kind of boring. I mean, the one financial accounting I attempted to be a business major in college, and it was the financial accounting class that had a bunch of stuff. And I'm like, look, I want to be out there selling and doing stuff. I don't want to talk about money like that. How do you make it exciting? How do you make it something that's attractive to potential franchisees and all that kind of stuff?
So, I mean, first we had to start with the employees. We had to
Mm-hmm.
test it to make sure that employees like working with us. I mean, we have some employees that have been with us for 10 years. And uh, I have my right hand, she's my director of operation, Catherine. She came as the part-time junior processor because she just needed extra hours and she had another job.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did tell her, sky is the limit, cat. And she's like, yeah, whatever. Everybody's saying that. But now she grew from that position
Right.
to the director of operations, and she's in charge of all the training for all the franchisees and bookkeeping employees.
Mm-hmm.
So I strongly believe that you have to give people freedom to grow, and
Mm-hmm.
sky is the limit for the right person. I mean, not everybody who worked for bookkeeping became a director of operations, but everybody had an opportunity to become one.
Mm-hmm.
If you, really know what you want to do, you learn, you willing to take responsibility for your actions, make mistakes, because I don't know about you, Aswan, but I do make mistakes all the time. Hopefully they're not the same mistakes all over again, even though that had to happen in my life once or twice. But
Mm-hmm.
most of the time, it's, I'm learning from my mistakes. I always say that it does not happen to me, it happens for me. But
Right.
that's a very recent thing. Before I was like, oh, of course, this happened. Now it's like, no, something happened. Why? What did I learn? How I can, apply it next time?
Mm-hmm. That's a very common phrase over here in the move swiftly world. Does not happen. It's not happening to you. It's actually happening for you. And it leads me to the next thing I want to make sure we get a chance to talk about is when it comes to who you work with and how you are working with companies that are already franchised, and essentially they convinced you, as you say, to become a franchise yourself. Talk a little bit about what you were able to do for them as franchisors or franchisees. Like, how were you able to make their business more efficient?
So I always say that we give the franchisees of other brands freedom,
Mm,
a freedom of time where they can actually go and spend time with their family, spend time on growing the business, travel, do whatever they want to do. It's unique for everybody. Okay, people like doing different things. But they don't have to do the bookkeeping. Let's be honest. QuickBooks is designed for non-accountants. So really anybody can learn how to do bookkeeping. I mean, you don't have to understand taxes. You don't have to understand very complicated audits. But enter information in QuickBooks. Anybody can figure it out after you take classes, watch YouTube videos. But I always say if it takes us 2 to 3 hours because we are professionals, it might take you, Mr. Client, 7 hours. What can you do with the 7 hours? I always say, what is the opportunity cost?
mm-hmm,
So that's what we looked. That's what we give the franchisees, and we started working for one franchise brand again by accident. It wasn't the plan. We were a local bookkeeping company here in San Diego. Um, but I was networking a lot, getting clients, and
mm-hmm,
then s- met franchisor. They tried us on one client, on two clients, and then before we knew, we started working on clients in different parts of the U.S. And then one franchisor became two, three. We're now a preferred bookkeeping provider for 95 franchise brands. Okay,
mm-hmm.
some big companies like Fast Sign, Signorama, Sport Clips, some small ones
They're big.
that are.
Sonorama is pretty big. Actually, I heard of them. Yeah, sports clips too.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, they're huge. Some very small, but they're growing really fast. Like one of them is called Game Day Men's Health.
Mm-hmm.
They sold, 400 or 500 locations in like 3 or 4 months. The fastest growing franchise in the U.S. history. Okay,
Right.
so we started when they had probably 5 or 6 units,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's actually a good opportunity for us to get in. And so I guess being around other franchisors
Mm-hmm.
made me think that hey, I want to be like one of them, because
Mm-hmm.
franchising is a very welcoming community, everybody trying to help each other.
Right.
Like I go to franchise conferences all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the time I go not to have a booth but to learn and hang out with other franchisors and take classes and
Very
take
good.
notes. And I see all the time the two franchisors who are competitors in the same field sitting at the bar at night drinking and discussing, and they're like really one is going another happen multiple times, and they're just talking because there is no competition. They like, oh, how do you handle this? Oh, I do it like this. How do you do that? I mean, let the strongest person win. Let the client decide which of the franchises you can you're gonna buy. I mean, we all can be friends. We don't have to fight. We don't have to argue. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, now I'm glad you brought that up because I've said on multiple occasions, amount of franchise companies that I've been a part of, whether selling and working for them and all that. There have been franchisees that if I was the franchisor, I would not hire because I see what they do every day, and it's like, look, you're taking the company to a direction in a direction that they don't need to be taken in. So you, as someone that was able to, build this brand or build this company and turn it into a franchise, what are you like look like what's a turn off, what's something in which if you're listening in and you say, look, if you're this kind of person, don't even waste your time trying to buy in? Like, have you ever had an experience where you had to turn people away because they're not representing the company and the vision that you have?
Oh, it happens all the time. At the moment of this recording, we have 11 franchisees for bookkeeping.
Mm-hmm.
In the next few months, we should have 14 or 15, and this number is going to grow. I know that for a fact. If we would have accepted everybody who wanted to buy, we would probably be close to 25, if not 30. Because for me, franchisees who are coming on board, they are the extension of us. So that's why when we meet with them, they think that they evaluate us. That's true, but we also evaluate them. And, when my team is talking to them, we do answer their questions, but they might not realize that after each meeting, we do get together and we discuss. And this is a safe environment. And my employees can say, you know what? I don't think this person is going to be good. Like, I don't think I'm going to work with this person, you
Right.
know, for next, 5, 10 years. I mean, just think about it. The franchise agreement is 10 years. So you're signing, an agreement to be in a relationship with somebody for 10 years. That's a long freaking time.
Yeah.
So you really have to like this person. They have to like you. You have to speak the same language.
Mhm. Now, because we're talking about that, what are the things that do work for you? What are the situations in which people have come in? You said, "Man, I like this specific quality about this person, and that's someone I want represented." What are the things that they're able to bring to the table so you're able to get a deal done?
Um, Oh. I think one of the very important factors is for them to be able to follow the system. Because
Mm,
franchising is, first of all, is a system. Are
mm,
we willing to learn and try new things? Absolutely. But there is a system. We can't just come and change things because somebody feels like it and like, hey, we want to come in and do it our way.
mm-hmm,
Okay, you can in some cases, but if we've tried it before and it didn't work for us, I'll explain to you that hey, we've done it. It does not work, but it's your business. If it's
mm-hmm,
not against the rules of the company, it's ethical and it's not gonna kill you, try it. But a lot of the time franchisees come back to me and say, yeah, it didn't work. I'm like, well, I don't want to say I said so, but I said so. But there are sometimes when franchisees actually have great ideas and they come to us and we actually implement that because the
mm-hmm,
franchisees that we have now, they are coming from all over the place. I can tell you that we have existing bookkeepers who just were getting like limit on how to sell. They didn't know, so they came to us and they 6x their revenue in the first 4 months being with bookkeeping. We have CPA firms who are buying bookkeeping franchise. We have several corporate America employees who didn't want to work for corporate America, same as I
uh-huh.
wasn't, and they just want to start their own business, but they're not necessarily accountants. I
Right.
mean, 2 months ago, we sold bookkeeping franchise to a 6-year NFL veteran. Okay,
Okay.
so the guy played in the NFL for 6 years, and now he owns multiple businesses, and one of them he bought a bookkeeping franchise, and he's actually gonna be growing this business. I mean,
Mm,
I would love to see how he's gonna do it with his professional sports
right.
equipment. I mean,
Right.
experience. Sorry, professional sports experience. So
Right.
really, we have everybody that you can think of, and then I know I'll have even more different ones, and I love that. I like that
Yeah.
our
That's
franchisees are
awesome.
different, but I'm making sure that they're gonna work together as a team. Also, before a franchisee buys bookkeeping franchise,
Mm-hmm.
they do validation and they do talk to my franchisees and they ask them any questions. They discuss, hey, is Max an asshole? I mean, is he an easy to
Right,
work with? I mean, whatever they ask, we don't know that. It's the whole
right,
point that the franchisor does not is not there and is not part of this conversation because there
right.
is a limit what you can say and cannot say if I'm there or any of my employees, and that's fine. But I've had cases before when franchisees came back to me and said, "Hey, we don't like this guy or we don't like this lady. You know, we like your call Max, but we are not, big
Mhm.
fan of them," and we said no
Hmm.
because I do trust their gut feeling because
Right.
they're meeting every week and at the
Mhm.
town hall meeting online, and then they also call each other. I want to make sure they like each other. Yes, when we get to 100 people, is all 100 people going to match 100%? Of course not. I mean, I'm not an idiot. I do understand that.
Right.
But, if somebody tells me I don't like this person because of that, like we had a case when somebody did not show up for the meeting they scheduled 3 or 4 times. I mean, for me, this is like a big signal that maybe we shouldn't be selling
Big
franchise
red
to them.
flag. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, one time I understand, well, 2 times life
It's
happens, but
right.
like 4 times that's a pattern. So we're
Right.
just gonna say no.
Right. Now, what do you offer them in regards to support? Because one of the things I do actually remember when I was dealing with, it was a franchise named Nine Round, and the owner would kind of always complain that the franchisors didn't support him. There was like a private Facebook group that they had, and they would vent a little bit. So if it comes to, you as the person that founded everything, how do you support them when they're coming in and making sure that they know that they're going to be taken care of, and little things, small things will be kind of taken care of?
Well, first and foremost, it's training. I believe the training has to be done.
Yeah.
So we
But they
have
train, yeah, you guys train them before they, I got you.
we have at least three franchisees. Yeah, I
Mhm.
think it's three that actually own other franchises as well.
Right.
And so when they were going through our training, they already had experience how training should be.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember talking to one of them because the other brands he owns have, I don't know, 600-700 locations. I mean, they have training department more than entire number of employees probably
Mm-hmm.
that bookkeeping has.
Right.
Not that many, but you understand what I'm saying. And I told him, hey, I want to say we are, way smaller than them. So
Mm-hmm.
lower your expectation because, I can't provide you all the stuff that, my team cannot provide you technically, financially, that the other team can. Like, yeah, yeah, don't worry about it, whatever it is. So when the training finished, he came to me privately and said, Max, you guys were way, way better than I got from the system that's been around for 30 plus years. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's just to tell you that, I guess we are doing something right because, again, it's very personal.
Mm-hmm.
Training is huge for us. We are not only providing the 2 weeks of training, we do provide 3 months of accounting school, we provide 6 months of sales training, and with Elena, we provide one
Oh,
year of executive coaching. So if you add the value, and of course, it's all at no cost to our franchisees, but if you
right.
add the value of these three trainings, that's more than the franchise fee we are charging. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I believe their success is our success. I always tell franchisees that come in, we are business partners. You own 90% of the business, we own 10% of the business.
Right.
We grow together, God forbid we go down together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a key part to it too, because the training and all of this, and it's like you had said, the system is in place. So when you train people to kind of not reinvent the wheel per se, they understand that certain things have to be done. But then if there's a creativity that they may want to bring to the organization, they understand that it has to be part of the system. And when you're talking about creatives in this world and this kind of this creative economy that we have, understanding the system is so very important. So, I do want to be very respectful of your time. Can you just talk a little bit about what you got going on next? What's coming down the pipeline? Like, where do you see the business going in about 10 to 15 years?
Well, if you notice, my background says main entrance franchise
I
consultant.
saw
So
that. I'm seeing
yes,
it. I'm seeing it. Yeah,
that
yeah.
that's my next. So I'm actually CEO of three different companies, but they're all around franchising. So bookkeeping provides financials and bookkeeping for mostly for franchise brands. I mean, we do not discriminate. We work for one-off brands all over the place. So it's not like we're not going to work for somebody who is not a franchise. Okay, let's
Right.
be honest. Bookkeeping is bookkeeping. So
Is there
second,
anyone needs
selling.
a big need?
Yes, for sure. Everybody needs it, if you ask me. But second one is, of course, bookkeeping franchise. But then when I started doing the franchising, that was about 4 years ago, 5 years ago. The day we got approval, that's the day we went into lockdown. March 17th, 2020. That's the day we got federally approved to sell franchises.
Are you
Here's the
serious?
here, yeah, that's
That
just
day?
it's my luck. Yes, here's your paper and here's the
Oh,
shutdown. I'm like, yeah, that's
no.
wonderful. That's really cool. So as you
Yeah,
can imagine, for
yeah,
the
that's
first year,
tough.
yeah, for
And
the
then
first
you were
year,
in where were you located again?
San Diego.
Oh yeah, it was bad. It was real bad out there. What?
Well, no, San Diego actually wasn't that bad, but we do have an office in Barcelona, Spain. We do have
Oh,
office in
okay.
Philippines. I have employees in other states. So everybody was reacting differently. We had to change the whole business model because forget what happened in the states. It wasn't that bad. Like in Philippines, they could not leave the house. In Barcelona, they couldn't. They had 1 day a week they could go to the store. So all of a sudden, from the office, we had to you know, move everything to their
Mhm.
apartments, make sure IT is working. So that was, and when they got shut down, we couldn't even go to the offices to get the computers. So I think some of my employees were going at night,
Oh,
sneaking the
well, yeah,
laptops.
that's
No, so
actually
it was,
that's how I did. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's what you have to do
So
during those times.
yes, so as you can imagine, nobody was selling franchises. That's why it took
Right.
us maybe a year and a half before we sold the first one, because I can't tell you that that was top of my priority. But nevertheless, when we came up with this idea, I was working very close with consultants, lawyers, marketing advisors. Um, I was part of it. And then I became certified franchise executive. I went back to school to study for it, got my
Mhm.
degree in franchising, got, the certification. And recently I realized, something is missing. I can help people even if they don't want to buy bookkeeping franchise. Because let's be honest, it's not for everybody. Okay. If you don't understand numbers, it's not for you. And
Right.
so I became a franchise broker. And now I have about 600 franchises to choose from
Hmm.
that I can recommend to people. And the beautiful part is that my services are completely free because we're getting paid 100% by franchisor only if somebody buys it. But the unique of me being a franchise broker, I'll be honest with you, is the fact that some of these franchises are our clients. We're doing the bookkeeping for them, and it's not that I can share more than I'm allowed to,
Right.
but the fact that I have the phone numbers of CEOs of a lot of these brands on my speed dial, that's
Hmm.
huge because, it's not that they're going to give any discount to my candidates, but it's a little bit different when hey, I have a really good candidate for you. So I don't go necessarily through the sales channels, but I'm going through, directly to the decision maker, which
Hmm.
is great. I mean, so now main entrance it was designed for exactly that. So we're helping people to really get their dream and achieve their dream as fast as possible,
Right.
even if it doesn't mean for them to buy a bookkeeping franchise. Of course I want them to buy bookkeeping because that's my goal. My goal is to have 100 franchises sold,
Right.
operational, and be a successful large franchise brand. But
Mm.
if I can help somebody to own like a mosquito spraying business
Yeah.
or whatever it is, a restaurant, I'll be more than happy to help.
Man, listen, know your numbers, guys. Know your numbers. If there's anything that I've picked up just by listening to him and what you should be really taking away is number one, know your numbers, know your goal. Like you had it clear. You want 100 sold. You would love to have that number and have that number in mind, but also be very understanding of people and what they may be interested in and how you can continue to serve people and how, again, I love the concept of main entrance where you already have a relationship with these franchisors. You, like you said, you have them on speed dial. So you can really just get some firsthand knowledge on what exactly would be a great fit. Who, is interested in whatever franchise it is. Are you a good fit and are you not? They're going to listen to you first because they know the work that you've already done. And that, listen, your reputation in business and life and period that reputation, it sticks with you, it carries you, and you got to make sure it's on solid footing. And it starts with getting the right people around you, knowing your numbers, knowing exactly where it is you want to be, and having these measurable goals and attaining them and reaching them every single day. So thank you for sharing that as well. How can people get in touch with you? You know, if they want to reach out, if they want to hear more, go ahead and put that stuff out there as well.
So I've tried to make it as easy as possible. They have to remember one website versus remembering main entrance and bookkeeping franchise. One easy website, franchisewithmax.com. Because really,
Franchisewithmax.com.
franchisewithmax.com, all three of the companies, whether you like it or not, whether you like my heavy Russian accent or not, you're stuck with me, okay? Because they're my babies and I'm responsible for the babies. Yes, I have team and I wouldn't be able to do it. I have team in each of the businesses, but nevertheless, I'm there, okay? So franchise with Max, and then you can choose, hey, I want to buy a franchise, or I want to look at bookkeeping franchises, or I need bookkeeping for my business. So they can get to all three companies from this one website, franchisewithmax.com.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's all in one stop shop to figure out exactly what direction you want to go. So appreciate you coming on. So the final thing I do to close out all the shows, Max, is I want you to use your imagination a little bit. You are back in the landscaping days. You've officially gone bankrupt. I want you to pretend that feeling of actually having to leave your keys, I believe you said, at a fence, and you had absolutely nothing. Pretend that version of Max has come into the Zoom room. Give him some words of encouragement, and we will officially close.
Wow, that's tough. I remember that. I would say learn from what happened, believe in yourself, smile, keep your chin up,
Yes.
and move forward.
Yes, yes. Keep your chin up. Again, I've been there. I've had a car repossessed. I mean, a lot of I always say, you know, if you're really gonna be in business, you know, these kinds of days happen. And if you get back up after those days, then it's for you. Then you actually have earned the right. But it's not gonna be pretty at all by any means. It's gonna be a lot of rough days. So get up on those rough days. All right. Fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.